Good morning, students. Today we come to the last part of the lesson, atmospheric pressure and winds. In this module, we are going to focus on periodic winds, variable winds and local winds. So let us start with the periodic winds. Periodic winds refers to those winds which blow in certain periods of the day or on certain seasons. They normally occur due to the differential heating of land and water. Among periodic winds, land and sea breeze and monsoon winds are very important. So let us first learn about the land and sea breeze. And in land and sea breeze, let us first focus on sea breeze. Now we all know that land gets heated more quickly than water during the daytime. The warm air from the land begins to move up. Here you can see the arrow where the heated air is moving up. Water takes more time to get heated, so the adjoining sea is comparatively cooler and has a high pressure. Air always moves from high pressure to low pressure. The pressure gradient forces the wind to blow from the sea towards the land, forming the sea breeze. So during the daytime, near the coastal areas, the sea breeze has a very cooling impact in the coastal areas and the weather is very pleasant. On the contrary, land breeze occurs during the night. Now let us see how it occurs. Now, land is a very good radiator of heat. So after sunset, the land radiates its heat very rapidly and a low pressure gets formed. During the daytime is weakened. Since the land has now cooled, so a high pressure has formed over the land while there is low pressure above the sea. It is merely because the sea does not release its heat very quickly. Now this pressure difference on land and sea causes the movement of wind from high pressure, which is the land, towards the low pressure, which is the sea. Here we can see how the winds are moving from the land towards the sea during the night. The word monsoon is derived from the word mausim, which means season. The monsoon is a typical example of periodic wind and it occurs mainly because of the differential heating of the land and water bodies. Here we can see how during the summer, the winds are moving from the sea towards the land, while during the winters, the winds are moving from the land towards the sea. Now let us see why this happens. Now Asia lies in the northern hemisphere. Here I have kept the map of India because we are living in India and monsoon is a very important factor of our country. So here we can see that during the summers, the sun shines on the Tropic of Cancer, which is roughly passing through the middle of the country. And because of the sun shining on the Tropic of Cancer, all places in the northern hemisphere is experiencing longer periods of day and shorter periods of night. And they are also experiencing a very, very hot weather. Now, the land of Asia and of course India gets intensely heated, and a very intense low pressure gets formed over the subcontinent of India. So here we can see that a low pressure has been formed, and it is because the sun is shining very, very brightly on the northern hemisphere. The Indian Ocean, which is in the south, the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea, all these areas remain relatively cool, and therefore a high pressure is found in these areas, that is, in the oceanic areas. Now, due to this pressure gradient, winds begin to move towards the shore, or we call the winds are onshore, because there is an intense low pressure on the land and there is an intense high pressure on the sea. So winds begin to move in this direction during the summers. There are two branches. One is the Arabian Sea branch, and this one is the Bay of Bengal branch. And these two branches bring very heavy rainfall for about 3 months in the months of June, July, and August. Rain also occurred during the September, especially in those areas which are far away from the sea. So here we can see that how the rain is bringing a lot of, the winds are bringing a lot of rain in almost the entire subcontinent of India. But as winter approaches, that is, after the month of September, the land begins to become cooler, and so a high pressure begins to be formed on the land. So a high pressure begins to be formed on the land, while as winter approaches and the sun begins to move towards the southern hemisphere, the land becomes cold and it begins to have high pressure, while the seas around begin to have a low pressure. So now the pressure gradient is from the land towards the sea. So cold and dry winds begin to move from the land towards the sea, like this. As they had approached, they begin to move towards the sea. Here also we can see how the winds are moving away from the land towards the sea. And these winds are weak winds and cold and variable winds, which normally do not bring rainfall. And it occurs because of the differential heating of the land and the sea. The monsoons are very important because they trap the monsoon winds and bring very heavy rainfall to the continent of Asia, especially the southeastern part. Next, we come to the local winds. The local winds are caused due to variation in local heating and cooling of smaller areas. Here we are going to learn about 4 important local winds, namely the Lu, the Chinook, the Fawn and the Mistral. So let us start with the most important hot wind, that is the Lu. Now this hot wind, Lu, is a very dry and dusty wind that blows on the plains of the northern India and also parts of Pakistan in the months of May and June, and usually it blows during the afternoon. It may cause sunstroke to the people, and it blows in the areas where temperature of the air can range between 40 to 50 degrees centigrade. Next, we come to another very important local wind of northwestern America, that is the Chinook. Now, it is a warm wind that descends from the eastern slope of the Rocky Mountains. It is also known as a snow eater, as it brings about a sudden rise in the temperature in a very short period of time. This sudden increase in temperature helps in melting the snow of the prairies. The Chinook winds blows here, and the snow which has occurred in the prairies get melted. The Fawn. Now this important wind is also a very hot and dry wind which develops in the lee side of the Alps. This is the lee side of the Alps, and it develops over here in Europe, especially in the valleys of Switzerland. This descending wind, here you can see the wind is descending, that is, it is coming down, helps in melting the snow in late winter and helps in animal grazing and ripening of the grapes in the autumn season. Next, we come to another very important local wind, that is the Mistral. Now this wind is a very cold and dry wind which blows along the coast of France and Spain along the Mediterranean Sea. Rhone River Valley gets adversely affected by the strong Mistral wind. Here you can see the Rhone River Valley, and the Mistral blows over here along the coastal areas, and is a very cold wind. All this area gets highly affected by the coldness of the local wind Mistral. You can see the effect of Mistral, how these trees are almost laid down by the strong cold wind which is known as the Mistral. Now let us learn about variable winds. Now variable winds are named such because when they are both in speed and direction, they keep on varying from their path. That is why they are known as variable winds. Variable winds include cyclones and anticyclones. Now, what is a cyclone? Here you can see how a cyclone is gyrating. Now, it is a small low pressure system which is surrounded by a high pressure area. Winds move in an anti-clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere and a clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. Cyclones generally originate when the sea is intensely heated and the winds from the surrounding regions blow with a great speed towards the center of the cyclone, which is known as the eye. However, the eye is considered to be a region of calm weather and clear sky. Cyclones bring very heavy rainfall, overcast skies, and a lot of thunder and lightning. Cyclones normally move in the direction of planetary winds. Here you can see that cyclones have different names. Near Philippines, they are known as typhoons. In India and in parts of southeastern Asia, they are known as cyclones. Near America, they are known as hurricanes. However, their speed and characteristics are almost the same, and they move towards the west because the winds over here are moving towards the west, especially the trades which are moving over here, they are moving towards the west, and so these cyclones also tend to move towards the west. There are temperate cyclones also which occur in the temperate zones, especially where the westerlies blow at about 40-degree latitude. And these temperate cyclones tend to move towards the east because the westerlies tend to carry them towards the eastern parts of the continent. Anticyclone is a system where a high pressure atmospheric center is found and winds begin to blow outwards. They blow in a clockwise direction in the northern hemisphere while in an anti-clockwise direction in the southern hemisphere. Anticyclones are generally formed in winter season when the cool air sinks. Here you can see the cool air is sinking and it forms a high pressure. They do not bring rain because they are formed by sinking air, and anticyclones are always associated with clear skies, fair and stable weather. In this diagram, you can see how in the northern hemisphere the cyclones are having a direction where the winds are moving in an anti-clockwise direction, while in an anticyclone in the northern hemisphere they are moving in a clockwise direction. On the contrary, In the southern hemisphere, whenever there is occurrence of a cyclone, winds will move in a clockwise direction towards the center, while in an anticyclone in the southern hemisphere, winds will move in an anti-clockwise direction away from the center. So with this, we come to an end of the lesson where we have learned several things related to the wind. That is what we have enough time for today. Thank you.